The pale Arctic sun rose slowly, as if it, too, was still half asleep. Its soft light spilled across the endless snow, turning the frozen land into a calm sea of silver and blue. Inside a small igloo near the edge of the ice fields, a family was beginning their day. Deputy and Sela, a young Eskimo couple, lay wrapped in thick fur blankets. The air inside the igloo was warm and still, carrying the faint scent of dried fish and burning oil from the stone lamp that glowed gently through the night. Between them slept their son, Nuna, his breathing slow and steady, like the quiet rhythm of the distant sea beneath the ice. Deputy was the first awake. He opened his eyes and listened. There was no wind howling outside, no cracking ice, only silence. This was a good sign. Calm mornings were a gift in the Arctic, and Deputy always greeted them with gratitude. He shifted carefully so he would not wake Nuna, then reached to adjust the lamp, lowering its flame. Sela stirred and smiled softly, her eyes still closed. She knew the sound of Deputy's movements as well as she knew her own heartbeat. "Is the morning kind today?" she whispered. "So far," Deputy replied in a low, soothing voice. "The sky is clear, and the cold is gentle." Sela opened her eyes and looked at their son. Nuna's dark hair fell across his forehead, and his cheeks were rosy with warmth. She brushed a strand of hair away and felt a quiet happiness settle in her chest. In a land that could be harsh and unforgiving, moments like this felt precious and rare. Slowly, they rose. Sela wrapped Nuna in a smaller fur blanket and held him close while Deputy prepared the morning meal. He sliced thin pieces of dried seal meat and warmed them over the lamp. The soft crackle of heat filled the igloo, blending with Nuna's sleepy sighs as he began to wake. Nuna blinked and looked around, his eyes adjusting to the gentle light. "Morning?" he asked, his voice still heavy with dreams. "Yes, little snow fox," Sela said, using his favorite nickname. "The sun has come to visit us." Nuna smiled and sat up, rubbing his eyes. He loved mornings, especially when they were quiet like this. He liked knowing that the world outside was calm, waiting patiently for him. After they ate, Deputy pulled on his boots and thick outer coat. He planned to check the fishing holes nearby and make sure the ice was still safe. Sela would stay closer to home, mending clothes and preparing tools, while Nuna helped in his own small but important ways. Before leaving, Deputy knelt in front of Nuna and placed a gentle hand on his shoulder. "Listen to your mother," he said kindly. "And watch the sky. If the wind changes, we change too." Nuna nodded seriously. He liked being trusted with such important knowledge. When Deputy stepped outside, the cold air greeted him like an old friend. He took a deep breath and looked back once more at the igloo, knowing that inside it held warmth, love, and the quiet heartbeat of his family. Inside, Sela and Nuna began their simple tasks. Sela sewed slowly, her hands moving with practiced ease, while Nuna sorted small tools and stones, lining them up carefully. The silence was peaceful, broken only by the soft scrape of needle against hide and the distant calls of Arctic birds. As the morning passed, the sun climbed a little higher, and the world remained calm. For this family, that was enough. There was no rush, no fear, only another gentle day beginning under the pale Arctic sky. The day unfolded slowly, like a long breath drawn in and gently released. Outside the igloo, the pale sun hovered low in the sky, never rushing, never demanding attention. Inside, warmth and quiet filled the small round space where Sela and Nuna worked side by side. Sela sat near the lamp, her sewing resting on her knees. Each stitch was careful and calm, guided by years of memory and patience. The soft scrape of the needle through hide made a steady, comforting sound. Nuna sat across from her, sorting small bone tools into neat lines. He liked making patterns, long, short, long, because it helped his thoughts feel organized and peaceful. Every so often, Nuna glanced toward the entrance, wondering what his father was seeing out on the ice. He imagined a beauty standing tall against the white world, listening to the ice, reading its quiet language. "Will Papa bring fish today?" Nuna asked. "Maybe," Sela replied gently. "Or maybe just stories. Both are good." Nuna thought about this and nodded. Stories could warm you just as well as food. When the sewing was finished, Sela set it aside and poured warm broth into a small bowl. The steam rose slowly, carrying a simple, comforting scent. Nuna wrapped his hands around the bowl and sipped carefully, feeling the warmth travel through him. After they ate, Sela opened the entrance flap and let in a little light. The cold air slipped inside, fresh and clean. Nuna stepped out briefly, his boots crunching softly on the snow. He liked how the land looked endless, like a quiet dream with no edges. Not far away, he saw a beauty returning. His movements were unhurried, his steps steady. Over his shoulder hung a small catch of fish, silver scales catching the light. The beauty smiled when he saw Nuna waiting. "You watched the sky," he said approvingly. "Yes," Nuna answered proudly. "It stayed calm." Back inside, a beauty laid the fish aside and warmed his hands near the lamp. The family sat together, close enough to feel each other's warmth. No one spoke for a while. Words were not always needed. As the afternoon drifted toward evening, the light outside softened even more. Shadows stretched long and gentle across the snow. Sela hummed a low tune, an old song her mother had sung to her. It had no real words, just sound and feeling. Nuna leaned against her side, listening. His eyelids grew heavy, but he fought sleep, wanting to stay awake just a little longer. The beauty began telling a quiet story, not a grand tale, but a small one. He spoke of a fox he had once seen, curled into a perfect circle against the cold, trusting the world to stay peaceful through the night. Nuna imagined the fox, warm and safe, and felt something soft settle inside him, when evening finally arrived. The lamp was turned low once more. Fur blankets were arranged, boots placed neatly by the wall. Outside, the world grew still again, as if holding its breath. Nuna lay between his parents, listening to the gentle sounds of their breathing. The day had been simple, but it felt full. His thoughts slowed, drifting like snowflakes. As sleep took him, Nuna felt certain of one thing: tomorrow would come gently, just like today. And under the quiet Arctic sky, the igloo rested, holding its small world of warmth and love. Night passed quietly, wrapped in deep blue shadows and soft stars. When morning returned, it did so without sound, as if it did not wish to disturb anyone. The igloo was still, warm with shared breath and layered furs. Nuna woke first this time. His eyes opened slowly, and for a moment he did not move. He listened. This was something his father had taught him: before your feet touch the ground, before your voice greets the day, you listen. He heard the gentle breathing of his parents, the faint whisper of wind far away, and something deeper, something quieter. The ice. It always spoke, but only if you were patient, satisfied. Nuna shifted and sat up. Sela stirred and smiled when she saw him awake. "You listened," she said softly. Nuna nodded. "The ice is calm." Aputi opened his eyes then, proud but silent. He liked when Nuna learned without being told. The morning meal was simple. Warm broth, small pieces of dried fish, and melted snow that tasted clean and sharp. After eating, Aputi decided it was a good day to walk a little farther than usual. He wanted to show Nuna how to read the ice more closely. They dressed slowly, carefully. Sela adjusted Nuna's hood, tucking it just right so the wind could not sneak in. She kissed his forehead, her lips warm against his cold skin. "Stay close," she reminded him. Outside, the world was wide and pale. The sun hovered low, painting everything in soft gold. Aputi walked first, Nuna behind him, stepping in his footprints. Each step made a quiet crunch, steady and reassuring. Aputi stopped often. He knelt, pressed his gloved hand to the ice, and waited. Nuna copied him, crouching down, feeling the cold seep through his gloves. "What do you hear?" Aputi asked. Nuna closed his eyes. At first, nothing. Then, a faint sound, like a distant sigh. "It's sleeping," Nuna said carefully. Aputi smiled. "Yes. When the ice sleeps, it is strong." They walked on, passing snowdrifts shaped like waves frozen in time. A bird cried somewhere far above, its voice thin and clear. Nuna felt small, but not afraid. The land felt like a quiet companion, not an enemy. When they reached a familiar fishing hole, Aputi showed Nuna how to clear it gently, without rushing. They sat together, waiting. Waiting was part of life here. It was not empty time, it was listening time. They did not catch anything that morning, but neither of them felt disappointed. Aputi rested a hand on Nuna's shoulder. "The ice gave us knowledge today," he said. "That is enough." On the walk back, the wind shifted slightly. Aputi noticed at once. Nuna did too. "It changed," Nuna said. "Yes," Aputi agreed. "And because we listened, we are already home." Inside the igloo, Sela welcomed them with warmth and a quiet laugh. She brushed snow from Nuna's shoulders and handed him something warm to drink. As the day moved gently forward, Nuna felt tired in a good way. His body rested, but his mind felt full, of sounds, of silence, of lessons that did not need many words. That afternoon, he lay near the lamp, watching the light dance across the curved walls. He thought about the ice, about how it spoke softly and rewarded those who listened. As sleep returned to him, Nuna understood something new. The land was not just a place they lived. It was a voice, a rhythm, a story that never ended, and wrapped in warmth and quiet love. He drifted into dreams shaped like snow and sky. The next day arrived wrapped in soft gray light. Clouds hung low in the sky, thick but calm, like heavy blankets laid carefully over the world. Inside the igloo, the air was warm and steady, holding the quiet promise of a slow day. Aputi woke and listened. The wind was there, but it moved lazily, without urgency. This would not be a day for long journeys. It would be a day for staying close, for small tasks and patient moments. Sela was already awake, feeding the lamp and arranging supplies. Nuna slept on, curled like a small animal in winter, his breathing deep and even. Sela smiled as she watched him, then placed another fur over his shoulders, when Nuna finally stirred. He sat up with a soft yawn. "Is today quiet?" he asked. "Yes," Sela said. "A waiting day." Nuna liked waiting days. They felt safe and slow. After breakfast, Aputi repaired a fishing net while Sela prepared food for the days ahead. Nuna sat nearby, carefully untangling thin cords. Sometimes his fingers slipped, but no one rushed him. In their home, learning happened gently. Outside, snow began to fall. It did not rush downward, it drifted, light and thoughtful, settling softly on the ground. Nuna pressed his face close to the entrance and watched. "The sky is whispering," he said. Aputi nodded. "It is telling the ground to rest." Hours passed without notice. The lamp glowed, hands moved, breath rose and fell. The snow continued its quiet work, covering old footprints, smoothing sharp edges, making the world new again. At midday, they shared warm food and sat close together. Aputi told Nuna about his own childhood, how he once grew impatient during a storm and tried to leave the shelter too soon. "What happened?" Nuna asked. "I learned," Aputi said simply. "The land teaches best when we listen." The afternoon stretched on. Nuna grew sleepy but stayed awake, watching the way light softened inside the igloo. Shadows curved along the walls, slow and round. Eventually, Sela set aside her work and gathered the blankets. "It is a good time to rest," she said. They lay together, not fully asleep, not fully awake. Outside, the snow kept falling, layer upon layer, soundless and kind. Nuna felt his thoughts slow. Waiting no longer felt like doing nothing. It felt like being part of something larger, like the snow, like the clouds, like the land itself. As evening approached, the snowfall faded. The world outside rested under its new white covering, smooth and untouched. Inside the igloo, the family moved gently, speaking softly. Another quiet day had passed, full without being loud. When night returned, Nuna fell asleep easily, wrapped in warmth and patience. The land waited with him. Calm and unchanging, and under the covered sky, the Arctic breathed slowly, teaching its oldest lesson: some of the most important moments come when you are still. Morning returned with a faint shimmer of light reflecting off the fresh snow. The world outside looked softer than before, as if the night had gently rounded every sharp edge. Inside the igloo, the family woke slowly, wrapped in warmth and calm. Nuna stretched his arms and legs, feeling rested and light. He liked mornings after snowfall. Everything felt new, quiet, and full of possibility. Aputi peeked outside and nodded to himself. "The snow has finished its work," he said. "Now it is our turn." Today would be a day of small but meaningful tasks. Nothing heavy, nothing rushed. Just work that kept life moving forward. After they ate, Aputi brought out a bundle of tools and laid them on the floor. Nuna's eyes widened. He loved when tools came out, it meant learning. "I need help," Aputi said, looking at his son seriously. "Very important help." Nuna sat up straighter. "I can do it." Sela smiled quietly as she prepared strips of hide nearby. She liked watching this, how responsibility settled gently onto Nuna's shoulders without pressure. A Beauty showed Nuna how to clean and smooth a small bone hook. Nuna held it carefully, his tongue pressed lightly against his lip in concentration. His hands were small, but steady. Slow, a Beauty reminded him. The tool remembers how you touch it. Nuna slowed his movements. He liked that idea, that objects remembered kindness. While Nuna worked, Sela taught him how to fold and store dried food properly. She explained why each piece mattered, how nothing should be wasted, how every small effort protected the family during long cold days. Outside, the wind picked up just a little, not enough to worry, just enough to remind them that the land was always awake. By midday, Nuna's hands were tired, but his heart felt full. He had helped. Truly helped. They shared a warm meal, and a Beauty nodded approvingly at Nuna's work. "You did well," he said. "The day is stronger because of you." That afternoon, Nuna rested near the entrance, watching the light move across the snow. He thought about how small things, careful hands, patient waiting, gentle listening, could hold so much meaning. As evening arrived, Sela told a quiet story about her grandmother, who once said that a family was like a circle, no beginning, no end, only closeness. Nuna drifted toward sleep with that thought wrapped around him. Outside, the snow reflected the stars. Inside, the lamp glowed low. Another day of simple life had been carefully placed into memory, and in the still Arctic night, small hands rested, ready to grow, ready to learn, ready to belong. The night slipped away quietly, leaving behind a morning filled with movement. The wind had arrived sometime before dawn, not angry, not loud, just curious. It brushed against the igloo like a visitor testing the door, then wandered off again across the snow. A Beauty woke to its soft voice and listened carefully. The wind spoke in slow breaths, steady and calm. He relaxed and lay still for a moment longer, letting the rhythm settle in his chest. Sela stirred beside him. "The wind came," she murmured. "Yes," a Beauty said. "But it is polite." Nuna slept on, wrapped tightly in his furs. When he finally woke, the sound of the wind made his eyes widen with interest. "It's talking," he said. "It always is," Sela replied, smiling. "Today it just wants to be heard." After breakfast, a Beauty decided they would not go far. Wind days were for watching and learning, not for traveling. Instead, they stayed close to home, preparing things that could be done safely inside and just outside the igloo. Nuna helped pack snow against the outer walls, pressing it gently with his mittens. He liked the feeling of helping the igloo stand strong against the moving air. Each push felt important, like adding a quiet promise of safety. The Beauty checked the ropes and tools stored nearby, making sure nothing could be taken by surprise gusts. He showed Nuna how to notice the direction of the wind by watching drifting snow. "It tells you where it's going," he explained. "And where it has been." Nuna watched carefully, fascinated. The snow moved like tiny dancers, all leaning the same way. Inside, Sela warmed broth and sang softly again, her voice low and smooth. The wind answered her song with a gentle hum, as if listening from outside. As the day passed, the wind grew slightly stronger, then softer again. It never demanded attention, only awareness. Nuna learned that not every change meant danger, some changes simply meant listening more closely. By afternoon, the family rested. Nuna lay on his back, watching shadows sway gently across the igloo's curved ceiling. They moved with the wind. Slow and comforting. What does the wind want? Nuna asked sleepily, but Beauty thought for a moment. Maybe nothing, he said. Maybe it just wants to remind us that the world is alive. That thought settled easily into Nuna's mind. When evening came, the wind began to fade. It didn't leave suddenly, it softened, slowed, and then became part of the silence again. The family ate together, warm and calm. Outside, the land rested once more. As Nuna drifted toward sleep, he felt grateful, not just for the quiet, but for the wind, too. It had taught him something gentle, that even movement could be peaceful, and beneath the wide Arctic sky, the igloo stood firm, holding its small circle of warmth while the world breathed around it. Morning arrived without a clear edge. The sun hid behind thin clouds, spreading its light evenly across the land. There were no sharp shadows, no bright flashes, only a soft glow that made everything feel gentle and close. Inside the igloo, the family woke slowly, as if the light itself was asking them not to rush. Nuna sat up and looked around. The light feels quiet, he said. Sela nodded. It is a good day for calm eyes. After breakfast, a Beauty suggested a short walk nearby. Not far, just enough to stretch their legs and greet the day. Sela wrapped Nuna carefully, making sure no cold could sneak in. Outside, the snow reflected the soft light, and the world felt smaller. Closer, safer. Nuna walked between his parents, holding each of their hands. He liked how the ground felt firm and steady beneath his boots. They stopped near a small rise where the snow curved gently upward. A Beauty pointed to faint marks on the surface. Do you see these? He asked. Nuna knelt down, squinting. Tracks. Yes. A hare passed here not long ago. Nuna imagined the hare moving quietly, leaving only whispers behind. He liked how even animals spoke softly in this land. They didn't follow the tracks. Watching was enough. Back home, Sela prepared warm tea made from stored herbs. The steam curled slowly upward, disappearing into the air. Nuna wrapped his hands around the cup and felt his body relax. The day moved gently forward. A Beauty sharpened tools, Sela sorted supplies, and Nuna practiced tying simple knots. Each task was unhurried, each moment unforced. At midday, they sat together without speaking, listening to the quiet. Nuna noticed how silence here was never empty. It felt full, of breath, of light, of closeness. In the afternoon, Nuna rested near the wall, his head against a fur bundle. He watched the lamp flicker softly. His thoughts wandered, slow and light. As evening approached, the clouds thinned slightly, letting the sun peek through once more. The light grew warmer, brushing the snow with faint gold. Sela told Nuna a story about the sun and the clouds, how they were friends who took turns leading the day. Nuna liked that idea. It made the sky feel kind. Night came gently. The lamp was lowered, blankets arranged. Nuna lay between his parents, feeling the steady comfort of their presence. The day was soft, he whispered. Yes, a Beauty replied. And so were we. With that, Nuna drifted into sleep, carried by quiet light and calm thoughts. Outside, the land rested under the dim glow of the sky, holding the memory of another peaceful day. The night lingered a little longer, wrapped in deep stillness. When morning finally came, it brought with it a familiar comfort, the kind that felt like a gentle hand resting on the heart. Inside the igloo, the first sound of the day was not the wind or the ice. It was the quiet crackle of the lamp as Sela fed it oil. That sound meant warmth. It meant home. Nuna opened his eyes and smiled without moving. He loved waking up to that sound. It made him feel safe before he was even fully awake. Beauty stretched and sat up slowly. He listened, as he always did, to the world outside. The land was calm, steady, breathing evenly. "A good day," he said softly. Sela poured warm broth into bowls while Nuna folded the blankets with care. He liked making them neat, smoothing out every fold. It felt like saying thank you to the night. After breakfast, they stayed inside. The air outside was colder than usual, sharp and clear. Not dangerous, but strong. A day for the igloo. For closeness, Beauty began carving a small piece of bone. Nuna watched closely, fascinated by how something plain slowly became something useful. Sela worked nearby, humming low and steady. "What are you making?" Nuna asked. "A handle," Beauty replied. "For a tool we already have." Nuna thought about this. Making something new for something old felt important. As the hours passed, the igloo filled with soft sounds, carving, humming, breathing, the lamp's quiet flame. These were the sounds Nuna knew best. He realized they were his favorite. In the afternoon, Sela taught Nuna a simple rhythm by tapping gently on a wooden bowl. Nuna copied her, slow and careful. The rhythm filled the space without disturbing it. "That is the sound of being together," Sela said. Nuna nodded. He felt it. When evening came, the cold outside deepened, but inside the igloo, warmth gathered. They ate slowly, savoring both food and silence. Before sleep, Beauty told a short story, about a traveler who searched far and wide, only to discover that the thing he missed most was the sound of his own home. Nuna listened with heavy eyelids. As he drifted toward sleep, he understood something quietly but clearly. Home was not just walls of snow and blocks of ice. It was voices, rhythms, shared stillness. It was the sound of people who cared. Outside, the Arctic night wrapped the igloo in silence. Inside, the sound of home remained, soft, steady, and enough. Morning returned in its usual quiet way, without announcement. The sky was pale, the land still, and the igloo warm with shared breath. Nothing felt new, and nothing needed to be. This was a day just like today, and that made it perfect. Nuna woke slowly, listening to the familiar sounds around him. His parents' breathing, the soft shift of furs, the distant hush of the world outside. He smiled, still half asleep. Sela noticed and whispered, "You are awake before your thoughts." Nuna liked that idea. He stayed still for a moment longer, letting calm fill him. When they rose, the morning routine unfolded naturally. The lamp was tended, food prepared, blankets folded. Each movement followed the last without effort, like a song everyone already knew. Beauty stepped outside briefly, then returned. "The land is resting," he said. "So we will rest with it." They spent the day indoors, moving gently. Sela repaired a seam that did not truly need repair. Beauty checked tools that were already in good condition. Nuna practiced writing simple shapes in the snow near the entrance, watching them fade as he brushed them away. nothing important happened. And everything important happened. At midday, they shared a quiet meal. No stories were told. No lessons were spoken aloud. Yet Nuna felt himself learning all the same, learning how peace looked. How patience sounded, how safety felt. In the afternoon, Nuna lay near the wall, his head resting on his arm. He watched the light change almost imperceptibly, growing slightly dimmer, slightly warmer. Time passed without asking to be noticed. Deputy closed his eyes for a short rest. Sela hummed under her breath, a tune without words. Nuna felt surrounded by calm. As evening approached, the sky outside shifted into soft blues and silvers. The lamp was lowered. Shadows grew longer, slower. Nuna crawled between his parents and settled there easily. Today was like yesterday, he said quietly. Yes, Sela replied. And that is a gift. Nuna thought about this as sleep came to him. He understood that not every day needed to be different to be special. Some days were meant to repeat, to comfort, to remind you that you are safe. Outside, the Arctic held steady. Inside, the igloo rested with its small family, complete and content. The day ended the way it began, softly, gently, without hurry. The final night of the season's quiet days arrived without ceremony. The sky deepened into a calm, endless blue, and the stars appeared one by one, patient and familiar. Inside the igloo, warmth gathered as it always did, shaped by breath, light, and closeness. Nuna was already sleepy when the lamp was turned low. The day had been gentle, full in the way only simple days could be. He lay between his parents, feeling the steady comfort of their presence on either side. Outside, the land rested. Inside, the world felt complete. Deputy spoke softly, his voice slow and even. When I was young, he said, I thought the land was something to cross, something to survive. But the land is also something to belong to. Sela listened, her hand resting lightly on Nuna's back. She felt his breathing deepen as sleep began to find him. The land watches us, she said quietly. And when we live gently, it lets us stay. Nuna did not answer. His eyes were closed now, his thoughts drifting like snow in still air. He felt wrapped not only in fur, but in something warmer, certainty, safety, love. As he hovered between waking and dreaming, Nuna thought about all the small days that made up his life. Days of waiting. Days of listening. Days of soft light and quiet work. None of them loud. None of them grand. And yet, together, they felt like everything. He dreamed of walking across the snow without leaving footprints. He dreamed of the wind speaking kindly. He dreamed of a home that stayed warm no matter how wide the world became. When morning eventually came, it would arrive gently, just as it always had. The lamp would glow. The land would breathe. Life would continue in its calm, patient way. For now, the night held them, under the same sky that had watched countless families before them. The igloo rested. Inside it slept a couple and their son, together, safe, and enough. And in the quiet Arctic dark, the story did not truly end, it simply became part of the silence.